Well, it's September, which is a huge month for us personally as a family, because not only is it Father's Day, which Paul now celebrates with several son-in-laws, but it's also his birthday month. And because his birthday is at the beginning of September, pretty much for 6 out of 7 years, we have a week-long celebration of just you, don't we?
We do.
And, you know, over the years, people have often said, you know, boy, I feel sorry for you with 4 daughters. But what is it like to have a birthday with 4 daughters?
It's pretty special. You get well looked after.
You do. And it's crazy because for Paul, one week out of the year he has to come up with everything he's going to need for the rest of the year because the girls spoil their dad rotten. But here in Australia, it is also Mental Health Month. And Paul and I were driving in the car the other day and we were talking about it, and we were talking about the importance of it. And so today we wanted to talk to you about trauma. So trauma is when an event occurs and leaves a residual illness, sickness, or sadness in your physical body from what has occurred. And as we know, we would love nothing more than to live in a world with no trauma.
Very true.
But here in Australia, we have people living with trauma every day. The trauma of sexual abuse, the trauma of domestic violence. And now, as grandparents, we are learning about the trauma of being bullied at school even. So rather than niche on one of those, because it is mental health, we just wanted to talk about trauma. Because trauma is an extremely difficult thing for people to own up to, because it's so stigmatized, isn't it?
Definitely is. The statistics are 1 in 5 Australians suffer from mental health. And mental health obviously has a very broad spectrum of issues and functions that go on within people's lives. But trauma is obviously a big one, because, and often when we think of trauma, we can think of the big issues that have come into life.
Yeah, true.
But there are small things too, in the simplicity of a young child's life, of, you know, someone passing away, somebody leaving the house, and often children blame themselves or feel like that they were the issue, that mum left or that dad left, and so it is such a broad and huge issue within our country. We have a huge suicide rate, especially in ages between 17 and 24. It was huge for men, but is increasing even in females now.
Yeah, it's interesting that you should say that, because I've been really sort of looking into it and studying as to why we become so traumatized, because as you know, one of our daughters is married to a beautiful South African boy, and they had a loss in their family recently. And this daughter and her husband, they have 2 children, a beautiful little girl and a boy that's autistic. And it's been really interesting for me to watch how well adjusted the autistic boy has been to dealing with all this, because autism depletes him. I think it takes a lot from him, but it's actually given him some strength and some ability, because it literally is a highly analytical, unemotional positioning. And I think for us with trauma, we live in this country, we live in this world where there's so much emotion and stuff attached to it, and there's no outlet to actually deal with that.
No.
Is there?
No, there's not. There's not, and there is. There is so much out there that you can get help in, but every one of us deal differently.
Yeah, true.
With our personal trauma and issues within life, and obviously there's school counsellors within schools, and there's specialised fields as adults that we can go to people to get help of the depression that comes from trauma. There's a number of rebounding, repeating, storytelling issues that come into our lives when we're confronted with something in life, and it takes us back to a place. And because of that, reflecting backwards to those times when trauma happened in our lives, it demoralizes us and restricts us from being able to move ahead even in our adult years. Fear's a big one. That when we're confronted with something that relates to the issue that we've been through, that's created trauma within our lives, we become fearful of things, that we won't step out and do things in our adult years because it brings back memories and brings back those traumatic times of what we went through.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And I think for trauma, the thing that we don't talk about, the thing that we don't demystify, that I really want to hone in on today is this. If you've survived trauma, you're bigger than it. If you've actually lived through the trauma, if it didn't take you out, there's a part of you that's a successful survivor. There's a part of you that has actually nailed that trauma already to the wall. The problem with trauma is it lies. It shows up and tries to remind you that you're a victim. And it's a very difficult thing to do when your emotions are attached to it or your intellect is attached to it. Because we all know that mental health is about keeping our mind healthy and sorted, and because everything happens in your mind, every single thing. There's not a single function your body does today that it would do without your mind telling it to. You know, we all know that once somebody is brain dead, they're pretty much on a machine for the rest of the things to occur, or you flick the switch and they've gone. So, you know, our mind, our mental health is extremely important. So here's the thing I would love us to just talk about for a couple of minutes, Paul, is when trauma hits and it affects somebody, to me, I always say it's like this: it prevents them from playing on the sidewalk. It causes you to sort of put up this fence in your life where you feel like you have to protect yourself at all costs. I know for me, growing up, being very traumatized with sexual abuse and domestic violence as a young woman, it took me a very long time to have male friends. I only had one sister. Dad had hurt. Dad came, he hurt, he conquered, he left. So I didn't have a lot of uncles. My grandfather died when I was young. So, you know, for me, I think I never learnt to play on the sidewalk and make friends with men the way I've watched you teach our daughters how to do. And our daughters have a very healthy relationship with you, your father, uncles, you know, and stuff like that. And I think, you know, we want to talk, we want to help you understand that when you are traumatized and you don't feel like you can play on the sidewalk because you're caught up, there are keys to overcoming that.
There's so much material. Obviously the internet is huge, and with questions that you may have personally with confronting and looking at overcoming some of these challenges within your life. But often when I read those articles or you read books, you're still left to this place where, okay, they spoke a lot about it, but what's the answer for me? And the mind, as Tracy just spoke about, is such a huge engine room of driving us to places. It's a known fact that every one of us have 65,000 thoughts a day. And of those 65,000 thoughts, 90% of them are generally a negative, or you're brought back to this place when you have thoughts towards the trauma within your life, that you have this record playing over and over in your life, in your mind, of what you say in direction towards that trauma. And so therefore your mind is constantly bringing you back to a place, rather than that you're helping yourself through your mind take you forward to a new place, that you change the record, that you're not saying that same negative thing to yourself all of the time, that you're bringing yourself to a place where you're beginning to find answers for yourself.
Yeah, true.
And we're spiritual beings, which we've talked about before. So in many cases, with this trauma that goes on within our lives, I believe personally that we can only see breakthrough and move ourselves forward in a spiritual setting.
Okay.
And whatever whatever way that you look at that, whether it's God to you, whether it's a higher power to you, whether it's creation that you place yourself in to find peace. Because the key to overcoming issues, trauma, depression, whatever it is within your life, the key to it is you finding peace. And through whatever avenue you find peace in your life, you've got to go to that place daily. If we have 65,000 thoughts each day, and many of them not good thoughts, then we've got to place this avenue within our lives where we can go to our peaceful place to find peace.
Yeah, that's true. And I love what you say about that, because, you know, it's a well-known fact that the universe, that creation, has an energetic level of about 450 kilohertz. But when we've been traumatized, when we're going through grief, when we're angry, when we're depressed, we run it around 100 kilohertz. And the easiest way to build back up so we're in line with creation, which means that we're able to synergize and life is able to work for us and we're able to have the things that are intended for us to come to us, is to have that really positive mindset and to speak it out. So to focus on love, to have 5 affirmations out loud to yourself will actually raise 100 kilohertz of energy.
True.
It's just absolutely incredible. Paul and I have dedicated, and I say that word intentionally, our lives for the last 25 years to helping people understand this concept. And there is no way in 10 minutes we can get it through to you. But I hope as you're watching these videos, as you're watching all of our channel, that you begin to understand that the key is you must never isolate yourself. You must never be afraid to ask for help. You must understand that you are a one-off creation with a plan and a mandate that cannot be dissolved, and that we support you. We have a lot of opportunities, we have a lot of courses, we spend a lot of our time helping people with this. But if you're watching this today and you've been triggered, please reach out to our website, tracyhorton.com. Please like and subscribe. Feel free to contact us. Otherwise, please call somebody else that can help you, because you matter and you really matter most to you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.